And a good Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're so grateful to have everybody in the house with us tonight, and we're grateful to see this lady by phone. And we missed her Tuesday night, but we're grateful she's back with us tonight. Leslie Millwee's on the line with us, and buddy, good to hear from you. Glad things are okay in Tulsa after your Tuesday you had, but we missed your voice. But a year ago, we had you on for Trump's victory. It was a year ago yesterday that he was elected. And the news wasn't as rosy Tuesday night, so maybe it was worth sitting out. But we're grateful to have you tonight. How are you? Leslie Millwee, everybody. Good to see you, friends.
Good to see you, too. It's hard to believe that was a year ago, isn't it? I mean, that was so glorious. It was almost like yesterday, but I honestly, and I think I shared with you with text in the last week or two, I really didn't hold out much hope in these elections, blue states, with except for the guy that won Attorney General in Virginia. I mean, what kind of a human being is elected? What kind of people vote for somebody who wants to kill people? I don't get it, but...
Well, I don't get it either, but, I think I'm with you on that. We had this, it was the same scenario, Leslie, that was setting up in Minneapolis. And, I even hate to say this, it was almost like if Cuomo would have won, it wasn't going to be like I was going to be excited about Andrew Cuomo being the mayor of New York City, no more than I'm excited tonight that Jeff Fry is the duly elected mayor again of Minneapolis, because he's as wicked as can be. But you had another socialist communist, just like Zoman Ndami, barely losing to him. And then you had another socialist young lady in Seattle that won her race. And there's a transgender, he's a man that's saying he's a woman. He is the new mayor of a Pennsylvania town. And then you got a Maine mayor tonight that is been found out that 23 years ago, she was basically accused of manslaughter because she didn't like somebody, and that just got basically pushed under the rug, and the media hit it. So people have got a murderer, a transgender, a communist, two left-wing leaning women that are crazy, and then this killer in Virginia, as you said, that wished death on his opponents and his children and wife, and said he'd spit on their grave. So that's where we're at in America tonight, I'm afraid.
That's unbelievable. I think that shows how left. I can't imagine that most Democrats are that radical, but they certainly are for these places and blue places, and that's what's shocking to me. I knew that they would win. I mean, like Spanberger and. It's really amazing to me that they will elect these people that are so left-wing. I mean, it's like there's no division. I don't think there's a Democratic Party anymore. I think there's a Socialist Party, and I think there's the old Democrats. And I really do think they should split. They have almost nothing in common in my eyes. I guess that's the way I'm trying to accept it in my brain.
I think that's a fair assessment. Were you shocked though at the margins? I know that there is a report coming out tonight that the New Jersey situation, especially, they put Murphy barely beat Cinerelli back in 2020, and so 21. So just 4 years later, the Democrats got 500,000 more votes from 21 till now, and I do not play cheating on this. I know that there's a lot of people, and I see it every time elections are brought up. We don't trust the election cycle. We don't trust elections. I'm not saying that it would have made a difference at this point. I think that there was a lot of headwinds against these Republicans. I was a little shocked at the margins because it was a rout, Leslie, in all of these races. Mandami was, almost 10 points, 13 points in Virginia, 15. Similarly, basically, it was ultimately 8 or 9 percentage points when all the votes were counted. These things wasn't close. This wasn't even close in any situation.
Well, I think it's the Trump effect. I think when Trump isn't on the ballot, these Democrats are not charged up the Republicans are not charged up and getting out the vote. I mean, we know in these special elections and in, the midterms, we know we have a problem with that. If that isn't abundantly clear from this, I mean, if we take away nothing, we need to figure out how we're going to go without Trump, because he's never going to be on the ballot again.
Well, that's true, and I'm glad you brought that up. We had a very, very good discussion Tuesday night with Magdalene Rose, our godchild, and precious young lady. You met her last year. She was on the panel with us for a little bit, and she did a fantastic job again. And she brought that up a lot, that the Republican Party right now seems to be rudderless as to where it's going after Trump, Leslie, and we better be getting that together now. I know we got 3.5 years, 3.25 years before we have to face that, but that will be here like it's tomorrow. And,
it will.
And I don't see any clear path that the Republicans are taking. I'm very concerned that the Senate Republicans are not dropping the hammer. I'm no fan of giving the Democrats a Senate without a filibuster, because it saved us at times when they've had power. But, if we do our job and we get this voting situation straightened out and stop letting these people cheat, put these criminals in jail and lay the law down, I don't think the Democrats win another election. And I don't see them taking control of the Senate if the Republicans would just get some kahunas and do their job. And look, there's other ways besides a filibuster to stop a bill. And I don't think the Democrats, and I'll give you a great example of something. There was a vote tonight that the Senate brought before the House. Rand Paul brought it before the Senate. He wanted to stop Trump from bombing the cartels in Venezuela. Well, guess what? It failed tonight, 51-49. Two Republicans, him and Murkowski, voted against it, but there had to be some Democrats that voted for it. 51-49. So there was a couple of Democrats that saw the light and said, hey, Trump needs to be able to do it. I'm sure Fetterman was one of them. I just think that this is my opinion. Maybe you can help me with this. I think the Republicans are making a mistake tonight, because every day this government shutdown goes on, I know that they want to go out there in front of that camera and say the people are blaming the Dems. I got the sense Tuesday night people ain't blaming the Dems. They're all in on this socialist push, and I think they're all in on holding the Republicans, saying, hey, it's y'all fault. Y'all are in power. They need to act like it. They need to act like they're in power. They do.
Well, yeah, they do. And I think there's a couple of factors there. I think in Virginia too, but certainly in New Jersey and probably Seattle and Minneapolis, don't you think economic factors are driving at least the New Jersey vote? I think that people expected more from Trump, and I say this not to criticize, but let me tell you what, these people are looking at things going, okay, it's a year later, my grocery bill's still high. President Trump is doing incredible things in the Middle East. He is helping end wars. But what's going on here? I still can't, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I still can't make it. Do you think that's playing into it, even though gas prices are 40 cents less? But
I think your point is well taken, and I think some of it is perception. I will tell you, I've not noticed a substantial drop at the grocery store. I went there yesterday, and there's still a little priciness to our groceries. I know that Trump's doing all he can, and I think that that's been his strategy with these tariffs. This is my opinion. I understand him wanting to get this trade deficit straightened out and getting these countries to pay their share. But I think that he needed to pay more attention to our domestic situation, because when you get down to it, when they go into that booth, Leslie, when people go into that booth, they are voting with their wallet. And if they're paying, if they perceive, and maybe they're not doing this, maybe it's just the way the media's convinced them they are, But whether that's fair or not, it's just the way people are. People go by what they hear, what they feel. They vote by emotion. They don't vote with sober minds. They just don't. And if they feel that prices are up and affordability is the issue, they vote for Zomar Mandami, who's telling them, I'm going to give you everything free, baby. You're going to vote for Spanberger and Sorelli and all these liberal loons that are saying, hey, we're gonna get your cost of living down. But this is the crazy thing, and I'll ask you this as a question, but you can comment on it. The thing about New Jersey is so crazy. They've got the highest energy cost in America, okay? Thanks to Phil Murphy and all these crazy loon ideas that he put on them. Shirelli has vowed to do even more than Murphy's doing. And I wonder what's going to happen come January when she sticks her hand on that Bible and these energy costs don't come down like she's promised they will, but they skyrocket. I look at the same thing with this affordable health care sham. The Republicans need to be putting the commercial out every day, reminding the American people it was not the Republicans that gave us Obamacare back in 2010. It's not the Republicans that put this monstrosity of a health care sham in the first place. You want to know why your premiums are exploding? It ain't the Republicans' fault. You can thank Barack Obama for that. That was Obamacare. But
well,
see, this is what frustrates me.
Further.
Go ahead.
No, John Roberts is a huge part of that failure.
That is true.
John Roberts had the opportunity to get rid of that. Instead, he said, no, we're going to carry on. And now we are at 100% of a healthcare crisis. We are paying money out the wazoo, and I'm in hospitals every day, and let me tell you, I see illegal aliens in there every single day, and people like you and I that are paying $500 or $600 or $700 a month for basic health care that has a $5,000 deductible. We're paying for that, let me tell you. And I think people are waking up. Now, how do you fix that? The Obamacare ship has sailed, but you somehow have to defund that. How? I don't know.
Well, but again, what is happening though, it's being framed that because the Republicans won't play ball with the Dems on these exploding healthcare prices and these subsidies are going away. Because I was on Obamacare for about 3 years. Thank God I'm not anymore because I'm on another health plan because of a life change. And I don't have to worry about that. But had I been facing Obamacare for 26, Leslie, my premium was going to go over $1,000 a month for health care because my subsidy was going to go away. Nobody can afford that. I don't care who you are.
No.
Nobody can afford that. And you're better off to take a risk. And, it was all, and when you get down to it, a lot of these plans were Cadillac plans mainly for major health issues, not really just general day-to-day doctor visits and procedures. And,
it was catastrophic.
Catastrophic is what I mean.
For you and I, it's catastrophic, yeah. But let me tell you, I have watched this unfold the last 15 years, and I knew we were about to go over the cliff about 5 or 6 years ago. I think COVID just hurried up the process a bit. And I mean, people like you and I and everyday people, it's like the premiums at work. People are getting premiums through work. It's $1,500 to $2,000 a month for a girl I work with, her family of 5. How does that possibly work out?
Okay.
She's paying more than a third, between a third and a half of her salary working in nursing to pay for health care for her family.
Yeah.
What is right about that?
Nothing. But see, again, that goes back. You're making my point, though, because this was not set up by the Republicans, even though I don't hold them without blaming this. We had a chance in that first term of Bush, first term of Trump, when Paul Ryan was the speaker. And the late John McCain, that I hope he's proud of himself right now, he deep sixed the effort to get rid of Obamacare. Trump and the Republicans were getting ready to put a health care plan together for the country. I think that, honestly, the government does not need to be involved in health care. I think these companies should have been left to do what we call ourselves capitalists. Why are we capitalists on every single thing that affects the American public, at least for the time being? We are, at least for right now, except health care. Why is health care the only thing that the government can tell you what to buy and what not to buy? Had it not been for Trump, we'd have been penalized each year for the times that we didn't even get it. It was a communist takeover. It was a sham. It was an Obamacare socialist takeover of funds and a shakedown of the American public, Leslie. And without Trump's help, that would have been even worse than it is now. But it's still a noose around this country's neck, and this is why it's an absolute hypocritical thing when the Democrats blame the Republicans for this. But I go back to that word perception. Whether that's fair or not is irrelevant. It's how the American people feel. And because the Republicans don't have something between their legs tonight, it's because that they don't know how to articulate this and tell the American people to their face, you're in the predicament you're in because we tried to get rid of Obamacare, but your cronies in the Dem Party wouldn't let us, and you Rhino Republicans wouldn't let us either. The same rhinos that are complaining that Trump's bombing cartels, bringing fentanyl and meth to our shores, which should be a universal yes that he can do that.
Well, the Rand Pauls and who's the
Murkowski.
weird guy, Tom Massey.
Massey's another one.
As long as you're dealing with that and you only have a 4 or 5 person majority, and then on top of that, you're going to lose those 3 or 4. I mean, we're in a pickle for that. And I do think we're probably going to lose the House in 26. I believe that. So if we keep the Senate and we keep the presidency, hopefully we'll have that. Hopefully we won't have gridlock. But
do you think that the
House
House
make it harder?
Do you think the House is going to be lost because of what happened in California, or do you think it's other things?
Well, I think that's going to play a part in it. There was a rumor another state was doing it. I'm trying to think which one that was. I mean, Illinois is already gerrymandered to the gill, now California. But what these people don't understand, in 5 years or less now, all of the new census is coming out, and it's going to be different. And they are going to lose a lot of houses. But how unfair, and I lived this dream in California, how in the world can 40% of the people support Trump and be Republican in the state of California, yet you have 2 or 3 representatives?
That's a great
How
point.
mad is that?
It is mad. It's mad. It's criminal. It's corrupt. It's the toxicity of the political situation in our nation. But again, I don't know what the solution is to that unless you just drop the hammer. And again, Leslie, I want to go back to something I just saw in the chat, and I want to ask you about it before we go further because I don't want to miss this. Roger Hooker, because I do want to get your take on this. The other big thing that's hanging in the balance tonight are these tariffs. And if the Supreme Court finds that these Trumps are unconstitutional, our economy is going to take a severe hit. I'm telling you. Look, the stock market, I'll just say it like this. It's been a bloodbath this week, and I've had to get a bar of soap because I've actually been dealing with stocks over the last few years just to have some safety net, and funds. And it's not been a good week. It's not been a good 2 weeks. And my buddy Chris Allman, and he helps me a little bit, and he's given me some suggestions. We've been sort of texting back and forth, play-by-play of how bad it's been for us both, and it's not been good. I think it's gonna shatter this country if the Supreme Court comes down on the wrong side of this. I personally think Trump has the constitutional right to do it, but you never know. But that's hanging in the balance over all this tonight, isn't it not?
Well, I'm very concerned about Amy Coney Barrett's comments. There were several comments from conservative judges about it and whether or not he had the power. And it is an unwritten power, but I think it's pretty specific that he does have it based on, what it entails and includes. I think that I would like to think that whether or not they agree with that, that they would not let the country burn down over that. And what do you do with the hundreds of billions of dollars we've already collected from tariff? Where does that go?
Somebody asked me that today.
Return it?
Somebody asked me that question today, and I'm glad you brought it up. If he does get knocked down at the Supreme Court, are they going to make him return the billions of dollars we've collected? That's another issue. I'm glad you asked it. Not interrupting, but go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right. That will be an incredibly huge, that will bring on recession and God knows what else if that happens. I pray that the Supreme Court understands that. Now, my question would be too, how many more tariff deals or trade deals do we need to impose? Aren't we almost there? Isn't China really the main thing we're focusing on? So, taking that into consideration, all these other countries seem to be happy to pay the tariffs and fair trade and work on a capitalist level. So you've got China, and that's the big bear. That's the big elephant in the room we have to address. Does the Supreme Court understand that? I don't know.
Not sure about that. I'm not sure even the conservative judges understand that. There's a few that do, but I'm not sure they all do. I do want to ask you a question, and I want to get on some more deeper stuff and maybe get us in the weeds a little bit tonight because I'll get to Nancy Pelosi at the end, but I got something else I want to ask you about and talk to you about. But I do want to ask you one thing in general. We did celebrate a year ago yesterday, Trump being in office. Did you perceive that we would be in such turmoil a year later? Because it seems to me tonight there is a sense, and I've talked to several people, even this week, and I don't think the events of Tuesday night helped settle these fears, that while Trump is doing a wonderful job, and I believe that I would grade him an A plus, A minus maybe.
Absolutely.
That what he's tried to do, I'm not saying he's accomplished everything, but what his focus has been and trying to do, I think he's done well at it. There are some things I wish that he would have done differently, especially with Israel, and I'll get more into that in a minute. But overall, I think he's done as good a job as anybody, and he at least has whatever he promised on that campaign trail, he's tried to do it. But Leslie, if you take a step back from Trump and take him out of the equation, we've got a nation in rebellious chaos tonight. You've got a jihadi takeover, a communist takeover of this land in many sectors of our society. And this Democrat Party, you sort of alluded to it already tonight, they have gone full-fledged communist. But what's scary is that there's not enough Republican strength to stop it. And it should disturb us all tonight that we're watching our nation be taken over by the very people that flew planes into those trade center towers on 9/11 of 2001. I saw a post today by Laura Logan, and she said it right. She said that what happened Tuesday night was a spit in the face to every victim of 9/11 of 2001. I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, I do
tend
too.
to agree with that. What's your thoughts on that?
I hope this was enough of a wake-up call. I think a lot of people, and it was regional. I understand that. This was not a national referendum on anything. But the main important thing, you don't have Trump in the next election. Who and how are you going to fight that? And two, this is one thing I was talking to somebody about yesterday, I think. How are we going to help these people, whether they're in New York or Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Fresno, California? We've got millions and millions of under 40 people that have no idea what it's like to own a home. Now, granted, some of them are not driven by that. They're lazy and they still live at home. I get that. But what about those millions of young adults that really want a home? What can we do to help them? How can we help them get on their feet? That's a domestic issue that I think Trump should address. Should they be offered first-time buyers 0 interest for 5 years? Should their down payment be waived and rolled into their loan? I don't know, but they've got to come up. Howard Lutnick is a smart man, and so is Scott Bessent. Get these guys at the table and figure out what we can do for those people. I think I think that's what drove a lot in New York City. And I see that all over the world. All over the country. There's nowhere right now. God forbid, I couldn't buy a house now in California. I don't make enough money. How do these people buy $2 million homes? They can't. People in Tulsa can't even buy a $300,000 house, these kids. And we could, it wasn't 300,000, but
I know what you're saying.
we could,
I know what
we
you're
could
saying.
buy a nice home. It was never a hurdle. I owned my first home when I was 22.
Well, the rent issue
But
and the other thing that sort of goes along with what you're saying, it's not just the home buyers, it's the home renters. Rent has become higher than mortgage payments, Leslie. I mean,
I know.
some people are paying $3,000 to $4,000 a month rent when average mortgage price is anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And who can pay that? You're just throwing $3,500 away every single month for somebody else's abode, but they can do it because of the housing situation in our nation, and they can do that and get away with it. And you have some slick talking jihadi coming along, and he's trashing capitalism, he's trashing everything, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to freeze the rent payments in New York City. I'm going to give you free bus rides. I'm going to give you free health care and everything else." It's appealing to those under 40 voters. And, I was looking at a figure tonight. I think I saw it somewhere on Fox maybe that it was like 80% of the ones that voted for Mondami had not been in New York for more than 10 years. In other words, they're newcomers. In other words, it's been an invasion. There's been an invasion of New York City that led to this debacle Tuesday night in New York City. It all started a few years ago.
And it's foreigners.
It's foreigners. That's what I'm saying. It's foreigners.
Yeah, it's like 40-some percent. 42% are now not born in the United States. And when you get those people with socialist views, and let me tell you, because I have a friend from Germany, and she is a socialist. She thinks healthcare, even if you're paying 50 or 60%. I have many Canadian friends. They like socialized medicine until they start to die. But before that, it's great. Well, you're paying 60% of your salary for your taxes. That's great. So I guess it's perspective. Maybe the kids are thinking, hey, I can't do X, so if you can freeze my rent and help me pay for my health insurance, I may be able to get my head above water. Because there was a huge transition. It started in about 2020 where there was that great real estate rush, and then COVID hit, and it's never, ever returned. The real estate market has never returned like it should.
Do you think that? Let me ask you a question, and I want to get on to something else here, because we can stay on this all night. But I do want a couple of more things about the economy. I saw a comment. Somebody said, "Well, Trump's got to stop the wars, and he's going to deal with this." Look, I tend to agree with that statement, but I do believe he could have done both. Look, stopping wars is one thing, but I think this economy is going to be the noose around this administration's neck. If people are feeling this way next year, this time, I think your prediction about the House and the Senate are going to be accurate. It's going to come into play because this is what's playing right now in our country. And these young people have become a voting bloc, Leslie. We older folks better not just blow that off. And
No.
I want to say to the individual at Facebook that said there were shenanigans in Virginia, when you lose by 15%, it's not shenanigans. I'm saying to tell you, it was a rout. You had a bad candidate in Virginia. You had a bad candidate in New York City situation. There was a fairly decent candidate in New Jersey. He lost by 13 points. It was just a bad night, and you can disagree with that. I'm not taking issue with you personally, but I will tell you, I do not believe there were shenanigans. I think there's shenanigans in every election. It's not like that's a news flash. We've been having shenanigans in elections from the day we started elections because we got people that cheat, and that's just the way of life. But it goes back to the people in power. That Glenn Youngkin was in power before all this happened, and we were being told that all these shenanigans were going to stop because they were going to clean up the voter rolls and be alert to these shenanigans. And it seems like every voting cycle we have the same shenanigans. So you know,
Well,
I don't
and
want
in
to.
Georgia
Anyway,
too,
go
it's
ahead.
still a problem.
Georgia too. It's Georgia. All of
New
them. All of
York,
them.
yeah, I mean Texas even. I think there are issues, um, but I do hope it's a wake up call. I agree with you in the fact that we don't really have an heir apparent to Trump. Let me just say, I don't know at this point. This is just my opinion, purely opinion. I'm not sure he's endorsing J.D. Vance over Marco Rubio. I almost think he's leaning toward Rubio, if nothing else, maybe a little more experience and age. I could be wrong. I think that both of them have done an incredible job. I think it would be really hard to be Donald Trump's second in
Okay.
command.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's where I was going next.
Okay.
I think that J.D. Vance, and I'm going to go ahead and lay the card on the table tonight. I was excited last year when Trump picked him. I felt like he was a fine young man. And I have not been close to TPUSA. I've not been a TPUSA disciple. I like Charlie Kirk. I respected the young man. It was devastating to see what happened to him, this assassination of him in September. I've been praying for his wife. I've been praying for his kids, praying for the organization. But I have watched this organization, Leslie, embrace anti-Semitic voices without renouncing it. And J.D. Vance goes on stage just a few weeks ago, and he basically says something to the effect that we're not going to be manipulated by Israel. He basically came out, threw Israel under the bus. He said Trump put pressure on Israel. His comment literally was to make concessions to Hamas. And you know, this is what has been the downfall of a president going back to George H.W. Bush in the early 90s, that we never pressure the Arabs to make concessions. We always pressure Israel to make concessions to people that want to destroy her. I'm just laying my cards on the table tonight. I think J.D. Vance hurt himself for 28 doing that. In a lot of people's minds, because I've gotten a lot of feedback about that. And I've gotten a lot of feedback. And we had Magdalene on here Tuesday night, and she brought up some great points about Vance, that this good old boy club that he's sort of hubnubbing with is not going to bode well for the conservative branch of the mega community come 28. I believe a DeSantis Rubio ticket would be a very great ticket myself. I don't think J.D. Vance is the future of the Republican Party. That is my opinion. People can say what they want to say and believe what they want to believe. I think it's going to be a disaster if the Republicans put their cards and put their eggs in J.D.'s basket right now. The young man needs to grow up a little bit. I love him. I think he's been a decent vice president, but that really disturbed me. And tonight, in the America Conservative, I'll show the image on screen here, and we're going to talk about this. It's an article, and we're going to post this article in our Telegram room. But this is the headline tonight: J.D. Vance can lead a post-Israel America as the right fragments. The vice president enters the spotlight, and this article tonight is basically saying that his statements at TPUSA indicate that if we go with Vance, we cut ties with Israel. In other words, this is our ticket out of supporting Israel. That's suicide, my friend. Look, we're Bible people.
Yeah.
We're Bible people. We're spiritual people. This is a Bible network. This is a faith network. I look. We do the news, but we're faith folks. This is suicide. This is political suicide. This is spiritual suicide. This is national suicide. If this is the path that the Republican Party wants to take. All right. Now I've said my 5 minutes and got myself in trouble. Get yourself in trouble and help me out here. Am I wrong in what I just said?
Well, with each passing day, I have had some things that I really didn't care for the way he phrased them or whatever, and I try to tell myself, hey, he's young. He is second in command to a absolute person that is revered around the world. That would be a really hard position. I think Marco Rubio has done so much more as far as putting himself out there as a leader, as a peacemaker, as a supporter of Israel. God loved John Fetterman. I mean, who would have thunk? Let's think about that from 4 years ago. Who would have ever imagined we would say anything positive or have to give kudos to Fetterman? But I am grateful for him. I think he has finally shown some sense for the Democratic Party. I'll tell you, the jury's still out on J.D. Vance. I think he has so many wonderful qualities. I'll tell you one thing that really bothered me a little bit, and I don't know if you know this or had heard about it. His wife is not Christian. Did you know she's Hindi?
Yes, I knew that. I knew that already, yeah.
I find that incredibly disturbing.
Well, he got in trouble. He got in trouble last week because he came out and he said, "I hope my wife accepts Christ." And all the feminists out there claimed that he was he was trying to dictate her faith and force her to accept Christianity. That is the absolute epitome of hypocrisy in this world that we live in. That J.D. Vance is a misogynist pig for simply stating, "Hey, I'd like for my wife to accept Christ." That's not being misogynist. That's being a good husband and somebody that loves his wife and somebody that doesn't want to see her lose her soul. But in the world's view, that's being misogynist. And at the same time, now, mind you, this Islamic takeover of America, Leslie, as the Muslims come in, and that whole word, by the way, Islam means submission tonight, okay? They're going to cut your freaking head off if you don't submit to them and force you to do things that you don't want to do. They're okay with that, but they're not okay with JD's just basically saying he wants his wife to find faith in Christ.
I know.
Hypocrisy.
I know.
Demonic
and
hypocrisy.
I'm glad his children are being raised Christian. I find that comforting. I did not know that because I have always looked at Vance as just having a very strong faith and a drive to represent Christ. And I have to tell you, that shocked me. I looked over at Bill and I was like, are you kidding me? I did not know that. It was disturbing to me. I can't lie. I don't know why I thought differently, but I found that, and I'm not saying that she's bad or anything, but you're right. The bottom line is you want your spouse to go to join Jesus and not burn in hell. I mean, that's just the way we should be preaching the gospel.
Well, the thing about Vance, though, his wife don't bother me because that's personal. That's their personal thing. But this anti-Israel thing that has been injected all of a sudden into the right, and these social media darlings, and these social media types, and Elon even came out. They're called gropers, is what the new term for them is. And I think Elon was on to something today when he said that this has been a deliberate attempt by the woke right to drive a wedge into the MAGA voters. And Leon, your statement about MAGA voters don't vote Republican, well, that may be true, but we don't want them not voting. And I'm wondering how many sit home, in these elections, over the country because, and again, it's such a convoluted mess, and I'm not going to sit here. I've gotten in trouble before for railing about the non-voters, and I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm just going to say that this is why we lose elections, because of thinking that, well, because somebody's not perfect on that ballot, I'm going to sit at home and take my toys, and I'm not going to go vote for a Republican that may not be the most perfect candidate, but now I'm going to let a socialist Democrat. Because the Democrats don't think this, Leslie. These Democrats would vote for a dog. They'd vote for a hog. They'd vote for a cobra. And they wouldn't think twice about it and smile at you and say, because they're doing it to Mondami tonight. These Democrats ain't scared that he got elected. I see all this stuff in the media about, well, this is going to be bad news for the Democrats. The Democrats are happy tonight. They don't care this guy's a socialist, communist, jihadist.
Did you hear what James Carville said today?
No, I did not.
Oh my God, you'll have to look it up. Excuse me for saying that. He said, like that Attorney General, the highest law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia. I'm going to go try to find a pedophile to run to see if we can beat the Republicans.
Well, but let me tell you something. As vile a comment as that is, that kind of thinking, though, the Democrat Party is united, Leslie. They wouldn't care. They didn't care they elected a communist in New York City Tuesday night. They didn't care they elected two left-wing loons in New Jersey and Virginia. I don't care whether the blue states or not. This is the mentality of the Dem Party. They don't care they elected a socialist communist in Seattle. They don't care that another jihadist come within this inch of basically beating Jeff Fry, who's no better than he is, but at least, he's not out there promoting communism. And this goes way beyond socialism. This is a jihadi takeover. But the Republicans, if somebody wears their tie wrong on a certain day, we just sit at home and say, we can't vote for them. We're not going to vote for them. They don't fit my perfect test. And this is why we lose.
Agree.
This is why we lose.
Well, I thought Trump was, I know people have given him a really hard time, but I think his pragmatism and his common sense said, I've got to make a point that we have to try to get Cuomo in because we know Curtis Lee was not going to win. And I'm happy to say that it really wouldn't have made a difference. I would have just been sick if Cuomo had won, lost by the 8 points that Sliwa got. Do you blame Sliwa for getting out of it? Do you feel like that?
No, I was thinking about that. Curtis Sliwa had every right to run. I think that this was a doom race from the start. I've talked to New York City people. They didn't have a candidate. Look, Leslie, I blame for what happened in New York is the people who voted for Mondami. But I tell you what else, I blame the Republican Party. I don't blame Curtis Sliwa. If that's the best that they could put on that ticket out of 3 million, 8 million, how many people are in New York? 6 million? 5 to 8 million people. Out of 8 million people, you can't find one good, strong Republican candidate that's conservative to put on that ticket and fight for New York City. This is who you put in there. Don't blame Curtis for that. You blame the establishment for that. The rhinos. Like Roger Hooker said, I'm sick of them too, Roger. I blame, and I'm going to go further. I'm just an all out, let it all hang out Thursday night here on the McFiles. I'm just laying my cards on the table. I blame him for Virginia. I like Winsome Sears. I'm not saying she's a bad woman. She's a horrible candidate.
She was a bad. She
Magdalene
was just
said that.
So white bread, so blah. So
and it was just like no energy. And look, to Jack Cinerelli's credit, he at least fought. He at least tried to run a campaign. I was a little more shocked in New Jersey than all the results because I thought he was truly had a shot that he could win because all I hear from the news and New Jerseyans how bad it is, how bad Phil Murphy did, how bad this was that, and how bad energy costs are, yada 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 yada, and they go out and give Sherrill a 13-point victory, percentage-wise. That's hundreds. That's and again, I don't know what's going on in these elections, but even if there were shenanigans, why didn't the Republicans hold their feet to the fire? They've had 4 years to do this, Leslie. This is what drives me nuts. People do this every 4 years. We get to the election, and all of a sudden, we make cheating an issue when we just made it an issue back in 2020 and 21, and we didn't do anything to stop it. Stop complaining. Stop complaining.
Well, and it's priority. I think Trump needs to really, I think they need to really get focused. I think we don't need to wait till we get creamed in the midterms. I hope they start developing 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 really, really strong candidates. We had some really good, strong candidates in 16. I hope we get to that where we have 10 or 12 people, where we have the different variety of people. I tend to lean toward Marco Rubio. Is it because I think he's older and wiser? Maybe that's what appeals to my common sense, but I really like him. I like Ron DeSantis too. I mean, I think we have some great leaders. I think Ted Cruz would probably throw his hat in the ring. I mean, I think we have a good bench, and we have a good bench coming up. We have a lot of youth like J.D. Vance, but the more I think about it, the less I feel like he's ready for the big chair in 2028.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll go on record in saying this, and again, this is, people can agree with this or not. If the Republican Party keeps allowing anti-Semitic voices to be part of its tent, Chris is gone. I'm not a Republican anyway. I'm an independent. But I'm telling you that this Israel thing is not going to bode well spiritually for this nation. It's not going to bode well spiritually for Trump. It's not going to bode well spiritually for any of them. They better understand that, look, let's just take the spiritual part out of it a minute. Let me just talk about it politically, okay? We've only got one friend over there in that Middle East, Leslie, one.
Oh, I know.
And that's the nation of Israel. People don't want to believe that. They think Israel's the great Satan. You know, it almost reminds me of the Russia hoax thing. The Dems spent 4 years making Vladimir Putin out to be the Antichrist, and, you know, he's not been the most choir boy, and, you know, he's proven his true color through this Ukraine war thanks to the weakness of Joe Biden. But the nation was convinced that Russia was the great Satan for 4 years. And I see the same thing happening right now, that Israel now has turned into the great Satan, not from the left. Mind you, this is coming from the right. And I'm going to tell you this, the more JD embraces these vile anti-Semitic voices, bye-bye, JD. I love you, man, but you ain't got my vote. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There ain't no post-Israel America if we want to be America. That's just my opinion, and I've got reasons for saying that spiritually, biblically, morally, and politically tonight. That's how I feel.
Absolutely.
Am I wrong about that?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I am 110% behind Israel, and that's the one wonderful thing about John Fetterman, too. I mean, he's like, I stand with Israel. I am not ever going to back down from that. And the courage that it took for him to say that in his party right now, but you're right. We have, you know, and the media, too. Tucker Carlson, was with Megyn Kelly.
I saw it.
I can't. Yeah. I mean, Tucker has gotten off the Israel train. He's like, yeah, it's part of the Bible. I'm closer to God, but you know,
Tucker's gotten off the common. He's gotten off the brain train. I've never seen somebody go crazy. Can I tell you something about that though? And I got, you know, we've been going an hour, and I'll let you go. You've been such a jewel tonight. I've seen this happen to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Seen it happen to Matt Gaetz. Seen it happen to Candace. Seen it happen to Tucker. When you start going down the road of anti-Semitism, it affects your thinking in all other areas. Tucker Carlson tonight was basically out there. He came very close to praising Zoman Dindami's election. When you hate Israel, it causes you to think with a deluded, deranged, reprobate mind. It leads down the road. Now, one other question real quick. Marjorie Taylor Greene, what is your thoughts about her? She has turned full-fledged Liz Cheney, has she not?
Wow. I listened to her. She was on Megyn Kelly for a couple of hours, I guess, probably a month ago, and I was impressed with her intellect. I think she goes really off the deep end on no matter what she believes. She's one of those people all in, you know, no matter what it is. When she's gotten off on this tangent, it really concerns me. I don't know that the people will reelect her with that kind of an attitude if they really listen to her.
I don't think she cares. I don't think she cares.
Maybe not.
I think that this is revenge, and I did not know some things. Magdalene brought it up Tuesday night, and I just want to, I don't know if my goddaughter's listening tonight. I want to tip my hat. She did such an outstanding job, just like you're doing tonight. But she said that it goes back to a bitterness that she got because she wanted to run for Senate. Trump told her no, he was not going to back her. I read a report tonight in one of the blogs that it was not even about the Senate. She wanted to be his vice president last year. And when he went over her head and went to Vance, she's not been the same since. And if you look at what's happened, this angst that she's had has been within this last year. It was like she said, I'm going to burn it down. And that's what she's become. She's become a bitter woman, and bitter people do what she does. Exactly how she acts is the epitome of somebody that don't get their way, and they say, I'm not going to play nice. I am going to burn everything in my path down. And that's what she's trying to do tonight. If you don't care about the country. And I think ultimately, she don't even care if she gets reelected. I don't think she matters to her.
Maybe
I think
not.
this is bitterness and revenge.
She's of that ilk, though. She is, and I mean, Trump is like that too, in the fact that, it's my way or the highway, but she doesn't have his power, and she needs to understand that. And her voice isn't as important as she seems to think it is. But yeah, I think her comment, I've always thought she had some comments that were really out there. I think that honestly, there are times when she sounds kind of spacey to me, like she doesn't know what she's talking about. But she was pretty sharp on Megyn Kelly, but I certainly don't agree with all her views, and I don't think the people will listen to that after a while either. But yeah, we need to really focus on getting our best candidates ready. And you're right, but we don't play ball the same way they do. And I don't know that we ever will, Chris. We're
That's a good point.
Spiritual Christians. A huge majority of our party, I think, the Republicans identify, I think 70-some% as Christian. And when you have that, or Jewish, and when you have that, it takes away that hate in your heart that I think people on the left have. They have pure hate and evil-driven actions. We don't do that. I'm not saying we don't always do that, because I've seen many Christians do that. But I think we have a logical stop in our brain that says, we can't go there. We draw the line.
Well, I think that you're onto something there, and I think that is a fair assessment of the difference. But Leslie, again, this is why politics is so ugly. And when you're fighting for the country, sometimes I'm not saying we get in the ditch with the Dems, but we're fighting for a nation right now. And if we don't stand up to this jihadi invasion and this jihadi onslaught, we're not going to have a country, buddy. It ain't going to matter. They will destroy. And somebody said something to me tonight, and they're absolutely right. My dear friend Amy Miller, she said, Chris, I really believe what's happening in Sudan is coming here. Can you imagine what would happen if you've got look? We better be grateful tonight that Mandani's from Uganda, because I guarantee you, if he wasn't, his aspirations would go beyond New York City. He can't get the White House. But I think more like him, what he did Tuesday night, regardless of what happens to New York City, there are going to be multiple hundreds of ones just like him that sees what he did. And they're going to come after us in our cities and our city councils. Look, another part of this election we hadn't even talked about was the lieutenant governor of Virginia. She became the first Muslim woman, Leslie, to hold public office.
I know. Oh, my
and
gosh.
we don't even talk about that. And again, there is a Muslim takeover. And it's funny because I personally believe that if you're not an American-born citizen, because we got so many people in Congress that are not even naturally born citizens in America. I don't think you should be holding public office making policy decisions for America.
Don't either.
That is my opinion, and I'll stick to that. We see the results of what we've allowed to happen. The people that we all need to take a look at tonight about this is right in the mirror. Me included. because we have not let our voices be heard, and now the fox is in the hen house. It's too late to cry chicken. It's just too late.
Yeah,
It's too late.
I know.
I'm not saying it's too late for the country, but we can't blame the Islamists for doing this. We've allowed them to do it because we've not fought for freedom. And I go back to this Israel thing. Leslie, I'm telling you, there's a divine principle. There's a divine principle in Obadiah. As you have done, and God rebuked Edom, and he told Edom, as you have done to my people, so shall it be done unto you. His people in that passage was the nation of Israel. I don't care where Israel is at spiritually tonight. I'm fully aware where she's at spiritually. But I'm telling you, that divine principle doesn't go away in 2025 no more than it went away back in the time that God uttered it. Because God's word don't change. We may think it does, but it don't. As America does to that nation, and as our leaders do to that nation, it's going to be done to us. And I got to throw this out before I let you go. When you look, every time I saw that Zoran sign, and every little snippet I've watched of him, with his arrogance, he had such an arrogance. He had such a divisive, arrogant tone to him Tuesday night, even after winning.
Oh, that was dreadful.
He is.
It was evil.
Well, I will tell you what it represented to me. Israel's enemies are now ruling over us because we did not stand up for Israel against her enemies. And I'll leave it at that, and I'll let the people make their own conclusions. Buddy, I'm going to give you a few minutes to wrap us up. Final thoughts. So good to have you tonight. Glad Bill's better. We're glad you're here. Good discussion tonight. Man, we got to do this more often.
It was. Well, I know, and I'll tell you the one word that when I saw Mendabi talking and doing everything on Tuesday night, I saw evil and I saw anger. I saw, when I looked at him, I know this sounds kind of kooky, I see this red behind him like I don't know, I just feel he has no good in his heart. We've allowed that. And you're right. What he's done is empowered hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Muslims to take the risk to go out to try to gain power. I mean, let's face it, Detroit, Minneapolis, Michigan, Minnesota,
New Jersey.
Those places are lost.
Those
places are lost.
Yeah.
They have a Somali population in Minneapolis of 100,000 people.
It's a lot of people. Leslie, that's an army, my friend. That's an army.
Of course it is. And it's like the guy that was, running. If you're Somalian, I'll stand up for you. What do you mean? You're in America. You're living the American dream. You are up there because you have been given rights only given by God because of our Christian beliefs. And you take that and manipulate that. I mean, to me and it's like Ilhan Omar too and Tlaib. These people they hate America. They hate America. When are people going to understand that?
I think.
What is it going to take?
Let me ask you a scarier question. I think people do understand it, and I think that people don't care. That scares me more than them not understanding it. I think people do understand it. I think most people that look at this, and even these left hypocrites, and even these right hypocrites that sit there and act like that they don't understand it, they're lying. They're just plain liars. They do understand it. But they hate Trump so bad, and they hate this nation so bad, they're willing, again, to make a deal with the devil. And look, you said something just now, and I meant to ask you about this real quick. I'm going to keep you 5 minutes more. Nancy Pelosi's out. She's not seeking re-election. But Dick Cheney died this week, and it was so ironic that all these things are converging at the same time. Give me your thoughts on Pelosi resigning and Dick Cheney dying, and we'll let you go. What's your thoughts on Pelosi saying she's not going to run next year?
Well, I mean, to me, it's obvious. I think a small part of it's health related, even though I think they would go Joe Biden for her and, put her on a broomstick and sit her upright. She will be 85 years old. She's 84 now. I have to believe that she thinks that this is no longer her party. She has ruled the House for so many years. And how can you interpret that any other way than to say she's kind of moving on? She's made millions and tens of millions on the backs of fake and early stock tips and misled people. She's made millions off of the American people. She was a big thing, part of the Obamacare. I mean, everything that she's done has been, in the last 20 years, has hurt the country. Dick Cheney, golly, I can say if he's anything like the daughter he raised, Liz Cheney, then that's pretty sad. She is the most angry, pathetic Republican that I think I've ever known. Is she still identifying as a Republican? Do you know?
I doubt it. No, I don't know if she would even identify at that point. Well, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. I was I had a very neutral attitude about him when he was Bush's VP. I felt like he was a warmonger after watching the incidents in Iraq, and then I watched the betrayal. The more and more he started doing things at the end of Bush's second term. Him and Bush were not on the best of terms when they split because Bush didn't pardon Scooter Libby. He commuted a sentence, but he wouldn't issue a pardon. Trump actually did that. But I think the thing that sickened me was Dick Cheney knows better. Dick Cheney knows the stakes worldwide. He was the Department of Defense head for Nixon, I believe. Was it Nixon? Was it that he was the head of the Defense Department for Nixon?
Yeah,
and Bush Senior too. But anyway, he knew the world. He knows how dangerous this world is, and yet he turned on Trump, who was trying to keep us safe. And that just illustrated more to me that he was nothing but a warmonger. He was one of these neocons that wanted war at any cost. And I feel like that's going to be his legacy. And look, Dana Perino, I softened a little bit listening to Dana tell about some of the personal side of Dick Cheney. And I don't doubt that he was probably, if you'd had got to know him personally, like day to day, maybe he was a good guy, but politically he was a pariah. And his family basically destroyed this nation. They tried to at the end, trying to go against Trump. Liz Cheney especially. The apple don't fall too far from the tree sometimes. And I'll let it go at that. Buddy, I appreciate you. I'm going to say goodnight to these folks.
I appreciate you.
Hey, get better, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend. God bless.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, Leslie.
Bye-bye.
Leslie Millwee, everybody. Put some fire in that house. That is a wonderful friend. And I am so grateful for her being with us tonight. She was going to be with us Tuesday night, but Bill had a little heart episode, and they had to get him stable, so she couldn't be with me. But sure, I'm glad she was with us tonight. Good stuff, as always. Good to see Rosanna Parsons drop in on Facebook tonight, buddy. It's so good to see you. Hope you're doing well. And I agree with you, my friend. She said something to the effect, out of 8 million people in New York, and the only one we can come up with is Curtis Silva, the RNC's a joke. I will totally agree with that, my friend. I will totally agree with that. Not going to disagree whatsoever. And I'm going to read some of your comments here in just a second. Good to see some other folks we hadn't seen in a while, and some new names in the house tonight. And there was somebody, Miss, let's see here. Is it Susan Wani? See you. Good to see you tonight. I've never seen your name before. Good to see you tonight in the house. Bless you for being with us. Grateful to see you. And all our regulars are out there tonight too. Dennis Floyd, good to see you. Cooper, good to see you. Cheryl White. But Rosanna, you're right. Out of 8 million people, if that's the best they could put up, that I don't think they had any desire that he win. I don't think that they had pretty much given up on New York. And it's sad because now New York City's facing 4 years of something that I don't think any of us have quite seen, but we're about to witness it firsthand come January. It's going to be a little different. It's good talking there. Good to see you tonight, friend. Hope you're doing well. Joanna Ramsley, good to see you tonight, and all you folks over in Facebook, and also on YouTube tonight. Good to see Sheila Daspit drop into the house. Cedric, where do we go from here? Up, man, up. Look, folks, I know this is, look, we do these shows, and as I told you Tuesday night, this is what we do. We discuss things, we talk about things. I know it sounds negative sometimes. I'm not trying to tell you that this is all apple pie either. We try to take a very balanced approach. I saw somebody say we don't need to walk in fear. We're not walking in fear. I'm not walking in fear. If anything, my faith has not changed one bit from Tuesday night. I'm fully believing that God is going to get the final say in all this that's going on. Our nation has got to make some decisions, though. If we want God to make a decision and be part of our nation, we've got to let Him come in. We can't just keep doing the things we're doing and believing and putting up with the stuff that we're putting up with. And I saw something in the house tonight, and again, comments are fine. You're entitled to your opinion. Somebody said, well, only evil people vote for evil, godless people that don't know God vote for evil people. It would probably shock us how many people that claim they know God voted for evil people. There were pastors praying for Mondami to win. I know that because we played a video last Wednesday night or Tuesday night. Black pastors were laying their hands on him, calling him the miracle for New York. So when the church starts doing this, the apostate system, granted, I'm not saying they know God. Your comment was not wrong. People that don't know God do that, but I will tell you this, a lot of people profess they know God and do it. So take that for what it is. But there are some Christians that they think that this social justice stuff is the gospel. They think that this socialism is God's way. They've got a blindness. I don't know what it is. Seducing spirits, doctrines of devils. I don't know what it is that's in their mind, but they think this stuff. And folks, there are some very liberal churches, very liberal pastors that got behind their pulpit Sunday, I guarantee you, in New York City, and told their people to go to that poll and vote for Omar Mondami. Not that they had a lot of choice, but it is what it is. And I will say this. I mentioned, who was I talking to about this? I mentioned this yesterday to somebody. We were looking at the numbers. I think there's 8 million people in New York City. There was only about 2.4 million votes cast, roughly, give or take. And that's not an exact figure. That means, and let's just say, I think there's 5.5 million voting block, because I know some of that 8 million is children and all. But let's just, for conservative sake, let's put the figure at 5.5 million. Well, even at 5.5 million, that means half of the voting block didn't even go out and vote. Didn't even go out and vote at all Tuesday night. That didn't help. And so anyway, Sheila, you're absolutely right. God gives the people what they want. God gives the people what they want. That is well said. Amy, you're absolutely right. Good to see you tonight. And she makes a great point. She says the person looking to replace Nancy Pelosi's seat is more evil than she is. Scott Weiner has been responsible for some of the most vile legislation passed in California. You're absolutely right, friend. It's good to see you tonight in the house. Bless you for being here. Welcome to our show. You're absolutely 1,000,000% right. And I think it sort of goes back to what Leslie said. This new guard, this new crop of younger Democrats are leaning more and more and more left. Look, say what you want to about Pelosi. Pelosi is an evil demagogue. I have no respect for her whatsoever. But there was a part of Nancy that saw this communist takeover, and she withstood AOC in that wave of the Democrat Party when she was Speaker. If she didn't do anything else right, she did not allow them to dictate policy. She stood up and quelched that. Well, without her leadership and Hakeem Jeffries in there, they've taken over that party. And Amy, you make an excellent point that this is not going to bode any better for California, and it's not going to bode any better for the country because Nancy's gone. Her legacy is now sealed, and she has to deal with that with God. But as far as the country goes, I think what's ahead may be far worse. And I think that's an excellent point. Thank you for being in the house tonight. Bless you. Davey, you say the Republicans better take things seriously and Trump needs to seek God's face and Republicans need to seek God's face. Davey, we all do. It's not just Trump and the Republicans. It's the whole country. It's the whole country. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but it's not just Trump and the Republicans. It's us. The church holds the key to this nation, not the Republican Party, and Donald Trump don't either. Just being very blunt about it. No, God's people hold the key to this. But what's the problem tonight is, again, what I just said a while ago. You got some of God's people that are embracing the very stuff that is destroying the country. They don't have no problem with it. And that's who I'm more concerned about. These politicians, I don't care whether they're Republican or Democrat, I don't have any faith in any of them. I don't put my faith there. That's why I'm not shaking about all this tonight, folks. Look, I'm concerned for you folks in New York City. It's going to be a dark time. Look, there's no getting around that. There's no sugarcoating that. I'm not saying that in fear. But what's ahead for New York City and this nation with this kid, that's all he is just a kid. He's just a punk kid in power now. It's not going to be good. I mean, unless he has a come to Jesus moment. And somebody actually said that was disrespectful to the Lord. Well, let me say that it's not being disrespectful to the Lord. It's actually telling you that people need to come to Christ, if that will make you feel better. Come to Christ, come to Jesus. It's a simple term that says people need to find Jesus in their heart. It's not being disrespectful to our Savior. And the thing about it is this: unless this kid has a change of heart, which he can have with God's help if we'll pray for him, I guarantee you. I don't mean this to be funny tonight, but there's probably going to be a lot of prayer meetings in New York City over the next few months about the future of your city. And I don't blame you if there is. I'll come up there and help you if I need to. But it's not going to bode well, at least in the short term. Who knows? Who knows what this kid's going to do? But it's just his attitude already is not showing any signs that he's not taking the pedal off of this communist, socialist agenda that he's about to impose on the world's largest city. The world's largest city. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let me get my glasses on. Suzanne, you said, could the choices we make regarding the United States and Israel be why our nation is not mentioned in Revelation? Suwana, I hope I'm saying your name right. Suwana. We've talked about this before, and if you've been watching our show at all, we always say this. We say this very, very, very often on our faith shows and on our news shows and these kind of shows tonight. You know, I had somebody actually email me, I'm not joking, that said they were offended at my flag back here that had the Israeli and the U.S. symbol together because they said, well, you're not America first. Well, let me tell you something. I am America first, but I'm God first before I'm American first. And you ask why we're not mentioned in Revelation. We're not mentioned anywhere in the Bible, friend. It ain't just Revelation. We're not mentioned anywhere. Our actions tonight, and I'm talking about the leadership of this country. I'm talking about the Republican leadership. It's very disturbing to me to watch the right go off into this anti-Semitic journey that it's going to right now. These voices, folks, that are saying these things, this is not the left-wing loon end of the country. These are right-wing people that used to be conservative and were on Fox and OAN and Newsmax, and they were contributors. And you got a sitting senator, or a former senator that's like this. You got a sitting senator that's like this. And this whole anti-Israel jaunt that we're taking is not by the left. It's by the right. Let me remind you very quickly. This nation right here, her future in the Bible is sealed. I know what's going to happen to Israel. I know what her short-term issue is. I know what her future is going to be. And when the dust settles, she's going to be around. The Bible clearly says that she's going to be restored as a nation. 2,301 times she's mentioned. This one right here, to your point, ma'am, we're not mentioned once. So common sense would tell us, if we're not mentioned at all, Israel's mentioned 2,301 times. The Bible's pretty clear about the fact that the nations and the whole theme of the prophetic verses in the chapters of the Bible, folks, deal with the way the Gentile nations treated Israel in the past, present, and how they're going to treat her in the future. That's what the story of Revelation's about, is the treatment of Israel by the Gentile nations and God's judgment on these nations for their oppression of his people. It's not about Israel. It's not about Israel herself. It's about God's promise and his covenant. Be with us Sunday night. We're going to talk about this again. We've been talking about it. Sunday morning too. But it would seem to me the common sense should kick into America that how we handle that nation is going to determine our future, whether we're going to be on this map whenever all these things start taking place. And nobody knows the time frame of that. I may not even be around when this takes place. I would prefer, as my dad used to always tell me, to go this side of the grave in the rapture. But if I don't and I'm in the grave, I'm still going to be part of the rapture. I'm just coming up out of the ground instead of coming off the ground. But I'll tell you this. Matthew 25, and you Bible students in the morning, we will talk about this very soon in the next week or two. The judgment of the nations in Matthew 25, when Christ is separating the sheep and the goats, it is totally 100% based on those nations' treatment of his brethren. Who are his brethren? His brethren are the nation of Israel. You say, well, his brethren are Christians. Well, that is true. We are heirs and joint heirs with Christ, but in the context of that verse and that chapter, it is all about the physical second coming of Christ back to this earth, and the judgment of the nations is going to be based upon how they treated Israel and how they either stood with her, they fought her, they oppressed her, they sought her destruction, and whether they sided with the Antichrist or whether they stood for Israel. And really, Isaiah 62 gives us the answer. There's going to be very few nations that stand with her. Christ is going to come back, and you can read this in Isaiah 62, 1 through 12, if you have time and so desire to see this, or you think I won't be making this up. Christ literally asked the question when he comes back in 63. He says, why did I not see, Isaiah 62 and 63, he says, why didn't I find anybody? I was astonished that no one was here to help. That no one was standing with my people. Nobody was there to help. That's from the Lord himself. So I'll leave that for you to chew on. But it's a good question. Roger, I don't want to get into a Bible question tonight. Just send that to me by email. Join me in the morning. We'll talk about that. Dennis, your question about can Trump cut off the funding from the blue cities? By the way, Roger, nobody knows the answer to that question. How many nations will survive? That's an unanswerable question. Nobody knows. That is really an unanswerable question. Dennis Floyd says, can Trump cut off the funding from the blue cities and states? He can, Dennis. I've got a feeling, because he's already threatened to do it, if Mandami gets in power, but I've got a feeling there's going to be lawsuit after lawsuit. Look, Trump, during the shutdown, can't even cancel SNAP benefits, and he can't even make tariff policy without somebody suing him. He can't bomb cartels out of the water without somebody suing him. He can't defend our country without somebody suing him. He can't get up in the morning and adjust his tie without somebody suing him. So the answer to your question, technically, constitutionally, he can. But it's a little bit harder than just doing it because there's so many factors out there and so many left-wing legal organizations that would probably have a stroke if he did, including New York City. Including New York City. So, yes. Roger, you make a great point. Many Christians voted for the Democrat ticket in Virginia. They did. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The satanic liberals, Chris Davis, good to see you. Chris, I will tell you this, it's more than the satanic liberals. Conservatives are too. The whole system is corrupt, my friend. It ain't just liberals. It's all the systems of this world. And some of these conservatives are more ungodly than the liberals in many ways because they're more dangerous because they portray themselves as being for God, but they deny Him and they do a lot of things. When you get down to it, they don't no more believe in God no more than the liberals do. But would you rather have somebody at least be honest with you and tell you how they feel, or somebody be a chameleon and promise you that they are, and then they turn out not to be? I'd rather have just somebody be up front with me and say, I hate God. At least you know where they stand. At least you know where they stand. And we're finding that out. If you think about it, Chris, we're finding that out with this anti-Semitic push that's going on the right. These people that are doing this, you would have never thought in a million years that the voices that are saying this stuff would say it. I didn't, it disturbed me what J.D. Vance said at TPAC, or Turning Point the other night. It very much disturbed me to the core that statement came from his mouth. And I pray to God that that's not really what Trump was feeling. Because if it is, and you look at what we're going through right now, put two and two together. Put two and two together. I'll just leave it at that. We haven't had time to play a lot of video tonight. But I will show you a couple of things real quick. We didn't have a chance to talk about the filibuster tonight. Let me do this real quick. If you'll let me do this, I'll take 10 minutes. Your questions have been great. We'll be back here tomorrow night. And very well articulated the questions. This is President Trump today about the filibuster. I've got mixed views about this. I think that they need the filibuster to stop it. But it's a two-edged sword. If the Republicans take it down, then if the Democrats get in power, then they will have just a simple majority to their agenda too. So it's a two-edged sword, but this is what Trump had to say about it today.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the first time they haven't done an extension. Extensions are supposed to be easy, but if they won't do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass, make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters. But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. That's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed, they recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption, because, they pass through too many hands. I mean, you go in to vote, and they want you.
And he's right, and he went on to say that that would be something the Republicans would need to deal with. And I'll go back to what I said earlier tonight, folks. We've known about this for 4 years. We should have learned our lesson from 2020. They cheat. People cheat in elections, and very little was done. If there was cheating again, we have no excuse for it in 24. We have no excuse for it in 25, because that means that nobody has stepped to the plate to stop it. And we might as well stop complaining about it, because nobody wants to stop it. He's right. Get rid of the mail-in ballots. Get rid of them. Make it illegal. But you got to have law. You got to have it done through Congress, and it's got to be done across the board with these states. It's impossible to say that all the states would go along with it. So it is what it is. But I get his point. This is a couple of things I want to show you tonight. We got more coming tomorrow night. Please be with us. Mark Levin, who I respect a lot, it's a good guy. This was just 14 hours ago. This was early today, but he says, who in the administration is pulling this crap? If we're not careful, we're going to lose the peace there. I'm stunned Hamas was invited to a closed-door meeting to discuss the interim government in Gaza. That's flat out appalling and stupid. Whose idea was that? This is coming on the report that the United States, that's Mr. Waltz there, and by the way, Brad Johnson is no fan of his, and neither is James Akers. U.S. convenes the UN, and Eric Caron's not. The UNSC submits resolution regarding the Gaza force. Israel was not informed beforehand, according to the National Security Council. So they went behind Israel's back tonight and started talking about the interim government in Gaza. The last time I checked, I think the Gaza Strip is in Israel. It's not in America. I think America would have been a little wise to let Israel know that they needed to have a say in what's going on in Gaza. And folks, that kind of stuff right there, that kind of stuff is what concerns me with this government. This is what's driving a lot of things in motion tonight that are not good for this country. And we're going to check on that story, but Mark Levin's a pretty squared away guy, and he is usually is not going to post something unless there is calls for it. By the way, one thing I want to show you tonight, this is interesting. This is about Mandami, and we're going to let you go. This was something that they released on Sunday before the elections, and this is the AWWG Palestine Policy Meeting Agenda and Notes. This is the group that is actually going to be the sort of the advisors to him while he's in office in New York City. And I want you to look at the things in blue. These are the things they want him to do while he's mayor of New York City. Divest city pension funds from Israeli bonds and securities. Withdraw city funds from banks that lend money to Israel or do business in Israel. End city contracts with companies that do business with Israel. Operate city-run grocery stores free from Israeli products. Investigate real estate agents hosting illegal sales of stolen lands in the West. Evict weapons manufacturers and transporters from the New York City metro area. Remove nonprofit status from charities that raise funds for the IDF, that's the Israel Defense Fund, or forces. Divest endowment and reinstate wrongly fired professors from the University of New York, the CUNY. That's one of the hotbeds that they had during the summer protest against Israel, and these fired professors that spoke out in favor of those protests. Dismantle Eric Adams' New York City Israeli Economic Council. End the New York PD training with the IDF. They need to spell there. Somebody misspelled and said IOF. End repression of demonstrations and the SRG. Arrest Netanyahu and active IDF soldiers for war crimes. If you don't believe this election was about Israel, what happened was about Israel, folks, they just did this Sunday night. This is dated the 2nd of November. That's just 4 days ago now. These are the people that are speaking into his mind. These are strategic goals, timelines, campaign ideas, committee structure, and ongoing meeting schedules and review policy demands and a document draft that were handed to Mr. Mandami 2 nights before he got elected in New York City. Every single one of those things there have to do with Israel. So, you ain't got to believe this old Southerner with a cowboy hat on tonight, some glasses, that this ain't about Israel. You can say, oh, no, it's about other things. It's about Israel, folks. It's about Israel. It's about Israel. That's what they want. But can I tell you something? That's no different than a Tucker Carlson podcast. That's no different than a Candace Owens podcast. That's no different than a Marjorie Taylor Greene podcast or a Matt Gaetz podcast or a lot of other Jew-hating individuals' podcasts and networks. They say the same thing. That's what people want. That's what they're pushing. I will tell you this, if those things come to pass, it's not going to bode well for this nation, nor that city or anybody involved in it. It's not going to bode well for America. You can take that to the bank. You can believe that or not. We'll see. We'll see. It was a bad night. Okay. Thank you all for being with us. Nancy says, I will bless thee that bless thee, curse thee that curse thee. Deanna Salem's in the house tonight. He is a braggart, Deanna, for sure. Betty True Seeker says the enemy comes from within. I'll agree with that. Amy, you're right. Scott Weiner will try to bring that same legislation to the rest of the country. I'm with you, friend. Good to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Did you enjoy the show tonight? We got a lot more, but that's all I got for tonight. We're out of time. It's an hour and a half. I'm going to let you go. And I want to thank Leslie Millwee for a great discussion. And we will be back tomorrow night. And I'm not sure what we're going to do tomorrow night. I feel like we need to take a bath after this week. I think. So I don't know. Now, for those that are not fans of the chicken outfit, that chicken outfit's in Alabama. So you're safe from me not putting on the chicken outfit. But I may have to don the loud USA jacket tomorrow night, put the cowboy hat on, and have just a Friday night free-for-all and just have some fun with you. Play some funny videos. I got one funny video I got to show you before we leave tonight to lighten the mood, because God knows we need the mood lightened. And so I think Kathy sent me this, and I saw this somewhere.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want no friggin' part of it. New York, New York. These Hugo Boss shoes. Longing to stay and take an Uber to LaGuardia, Tata, New York. I wanna wake up in a city that's safe and free, without that slick jive-ass mayor, Comrade Mamdani.
And I'm going to play that whole thing tomorrow night. I got to make sure there ain't no more ugly language in it. I didn't listen to the whole thing, so I got to make sure it don't offend our children in the house. But that's, I think, how the New Yorkers feel. And Frank sort of hit the nail on the head. Because Sinatra and all the New Yorkers are turning over in their grave tonight, I can guarantee you. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. Come on back and be with us tomorrow night. We're going to have a good time with you tomorrow as we wrap up a week. Folks, let me just say this before I leave tonight, and I mean this, and I mean this very sincerely. I know a lot of you are very discouraged. I don't want you to be. I want you to keep your faith, keep your spirits up. I don't care how bad it gets. Number one, if you're a Christian tonight, if you're a believer, our faith is in God. And our faith should not be shaken, changed, one iota from what we've seen happen this week. It should not have moved the meter. It should not have moved anything in our spiritual dynamics this week. Not one. If anything, it should encourage us even more that we know that we need to get closer to God than we've ever gotten. Number two, we got each other. We've got each other. And this show is dedicated to being here every night to encourage you, to exhort you, to edify you, to make you laugh, make you mad, spit at the screen, roll over. throw lemonade at the screen, cuss at me for you not liking what I got to say. That's all right. In 7 years, we've had a lot worse done to us than that, and it's okay. But we're here to encourage it and know that we're in this together as Americans. And we're going to get through this with the help and the grace of God. But I want to say this about the Lord. I hear all this that, well, we need, that God's got control of this and God's going to fix this. God's not going to fix this until we get in alignment with Him. And God is waiting for America to invite Him into this situation. That's the problem tonight. He's not being invited into this situation to fix it. He wants to fix it. He really does. He doesn't want to see this nation go down. And I don't either, folks. I'm an American. I love the nation of Israel, but I am an American. And I'll support Israel, but I'm an American. But I'm not America first in the sense that if it being America first means that it compromises my faith, I'm God first. And I'm Jesus Christ first tonight. And I think that's a pretty safe, sound advice to give to all of you tonight, that we better be God first if we want this nation to survive. I love you all. Have a good night. Hope you enjoyed the show. Put some fire in that house. And I will see you back here tomorrow sometime, you Bible students. Final Bible study of the week. See you in the morning. God bless. Good night now.